Hey everybody, welcome to the 2014 season of Krown Countdown U, and a special welcome to our newest viewers and newest stations across the country. My name is Ryan Sullivan. That, of course, is Andrew Wadden. A sweet-looking season we got prepared for you. A great-looking set, by the way. Brand new set, brand new jackets, and there's a bit of a theme going here. Last two teams standing last year, Laval, Calgary, they rocked the red. We're doing the same. Tell us about Calgary in the West.
Well, you know, Calgary is in the Canada West. And like the song Jim Mullen's favorite rapper Kool Moe Dee made famous back in the day, the Wild Wild West is going to be just that in the Canada West in 2014. The Calgary Dinos, well, they're still the team to beat, but will this be the year that the Dinos get knocked off their run of Hardy Cup titles? Here's a look at the Canada West.
The Dinos ran the table in conference play in 2013 while losing in the Vanier Cup to Laval. Despite an improved Canada West Conference, don't be surprised if the Dinos go undefeated once again in 2014. They're just that good. And they're young. 11 of the 12 starters return on offense, which is led by All-Canadian running back Mercer Timmis and Canada West All-Star quarterback Andrew Buckley, who, funny enough, will be pushed for the starting job by former starter and Canada West Player of the Year in 2012, Eric Daleski. ED is back after missing all of 2013 due to injury, which is a welcome commodity for an already stellar offense that was tops in the Canada West last year. The scary thing about these Dinos is their defense might be their biggest strength. All 12 starters are back, including All-Canadians Dr. Kasama and Cyril Iwanabe. Simply put, don't expect the Dinos' 6-year streak of Hardy titles to end this year. The Herd is coming off a successful 2013 season that saw them come one win away from making it to a national semi-final. Despite losing All-Canadian Anthony Coombs, the Bisons are still very strong on offense, with Canada West All-Star quarterback Jordan Yance returning for a final season, alongside fellow Canada West All-Star Nick Dembski, who many consider to be a top pick in the 2015 CFL Draft. With a defense that many consider to be improved in 2014, look for the Bisons to make another run to a Hardy Cup final this year. The Thunderbird season closed on a blanket of snow, losing to Calgary in a snowy Canada West semifinal that many of the T-Birds will tell you that they let slip out of their hands. No pun intended. However, the 2014 Thunderbirds will be a force to reckon with. They return 19 of 24 starters, 9 on offense, which will be led by running back Brandon Deschamps, who had a breakout season in 2013. The T-Birds are hoping that top recruit Marcus Davis, the number 3 ranked recruit in the nation according to Canada Football Chat's Top 100, alongside his older brother Terrell Davis, who transferred from Arizona State, will be able to make an immediate impact. The pivot position is once again up for grabs, with Carson Williams and Greg Bocott both vying to earn the starting position. 10 starters are back, with first-team All-Canadian JP Metris Award nominee Donovan Dale anchoring the D-line. Head coach Sean Olsen has been quoted saying that he believes that this will be one of the best assembled teams he's had since coaching at UBC. In soon time, we shall know. The Green Dogs came within a missed field goal of advancing to the Hardy Cup final in 2013, but 2014 will be a true test for some key veterans. Sasky returns just 14 starters this year, 7 offensively and 7 on D. Going into his 3rd season under center, quarterback Drew Burko will have the guidance of former Husky standout pivot Lawrence Nixon, who joins the team as the new quarterback coach. A former All-Canadian receiver, Kit Hillis, and his brother Mitch will be Burko's top targets, while Shane Buchanan will look to carry the load in the backfield. On defense, the loss of 2013 second-team All-Canadian defensive end Joel Suter will be a tough hole to fill. Safety Mark Ingram, who too was a second-team All-Canadian 2013, will look to lead what could be a rebuilding Huskies defense. However, with good players in key positions, this year's edition of the Green and White should find themselves in a dogfight come season's end. Rams head coach Frank McChrystal announced before training camp opened this season that his 31st season will be his last. 9 starters return on offense, with quarterback Cayman Shutter looking to finish off his collegiate career with a strong season. He loses one of his favorite targets in Colton Solomon due to graduation. However, second-team All-Canadian Addison Richards is still around and looking to have a strong year. On defense, 8 starters are returning, with second-team All-Canadian Tavon Campbell leading a very athletic defensive backfield. Another strong season from the dynamic duo of Shutter and Richards could propel the Rams into the top 3 in the conference, but they will have to find a running game if they want to get there. October 23rd, 2010. That was the last time Alberta won a football game. Never mind how many consecutive losses that is, the fact of the matter is this year's edition of the Golden Bears want that dubious streak to end, and they just might have the team to do it. The offense returned 7 starters, highlighted by Tyler Henry. Henry let his name be known in 2013. The rookie receiver was 3rd in the nation in receptions and 6th in the nation in receiving yards, but doesn't just stop there. The speedy wideout also was a force on special teams, where he led the Canada West in punt and kick return yards, as well as setting a CIS record returning a 106-yard return for a touchdown. Fifth-year QBs Ryan Schwartz and Curtis Dell will share the work under center. On defense, 7 starters are back, but this is where the G-Bears will have to improve the most after finishing last in the CIS, allowing a gaudy 419 points against last year.
Well, after an absolute dominant season, the Western Mustangs kind of melted in the Calgary snow. So the question, will Finch & Co. come out of the gates flying again, or will Queens and or Guelph take the ponies to the glue factory once and for all? The OUA is where we head next.
The OUA can be split into 3 tiers, and at the top of that pyramid, standing alone, are the Western Mustangs. Winning a 30th Yates Cup in school history is just the beginning of what was an incredible 2013 campaign. The Purple Ponies set multiple CIS and OUA records en route to an undefeated OUA regular season. The offense, which set an OUA record for points in a season last year, will be just as lethal in 2014. Stud quarterback Will Finch leads this potent attack. Finch set an OUA record last year, tossing for 3,047 yards while completing 69.7% of his passes. In the backfield, the Stangs' 3-headed monster of Garrett Sanvito, Yannick Haru, and Adam Sinclair is straight up scary, while the receiving core is led by George Johnson, who was an All-Canadian in 2013. On D, Western returns 9 starters, including All-Canadian lineman Darryl Wadd, who is considered to be a top prospect in the 2015 CFL Draft. 2014 marks the 20th anniversary since the last time Western won a Vanier Cup. This could very well be the year that streak comes to an end. Level 2 of that OUA tier hierarchy sits 2 teams, Queens and Guelph. Let's start things with the Gales. This is a transition year for Queens, with just 4 starters returning on offense. The good thing, they're in key positions. Quarterback Billy McPhee is returning for his 5th year and looks to lead an offense that was the 2nd best in the CIS in 2013. The loss of Gale's all-time leading rusher, Ryan Granberg, shouldn't be too hard on offense. As Jesse Andrews proved last year, he's more than capable of carrying the load in 2014. Defensively, just 6 starters are returning. All-Canadian lineman Derek Wiggin, plus OUA first-team All-Star defensive back and owner of the best name in CIS football, Jan Dikabalatoken, will be looked upon to anchor the young new core. Do the Gales have enough to compete with the likes of Western? Well, that's hard to fathom. Returning to a Yates Cup final, that will be the goal for this transition year at Queens. Guelph will be neck and neck with Queens, but they, much like the Gales, are going through a bit of a transitional season. Key positions on offense are returning, that's the good news. Quarterback Jazz Lindsay leads the Griffins' attack, with running back Rob Farquharson out of the backfield doing some damage. The receiving core loses some key pieces, but also sees some more opportunity for youngsters like a Dre Fraser, who the Griffins believe will have a breakout 2014. On D, the Griffins will look to be just as steady as they were last season. Guelph led the OUA in the fewest allowed yards per game and point per game against last season, with what should be a surefire offense in 2014 for the Griffins, returning to the Yates Cup final, mainly on the shoulders of the defense. The 3rd tier of teams in the OUA sits, well, 3 teams. McMaster is the first of those 3 teams. 10 starters return on offense and defense. Quarterback Marshall Ferguson is returning, but his health is in question. CIS Rookie of the Year Danny van der Voort will be Ferguson's top target and should look to be one of the top receivers in the conference. The defense, well, that's their strong point. With former All-Canadian cornerback Joey Capito returning for a 5th year, the Marauders very well could find themselves finishing in the top 3 of the conference, mainly on the strength of the experience the team has coming back. The GGs had an up-and-down 2013 campaign. 2014 will be a tough test for this young squad. Just 6 starters return on offense, with key pieces in quarterback Aaron Colbon and running back Brandon Galanders both gone. The quarterback position is up for grabs, with Derek Wendell and Hunter Robinson looking to battle it out for the starting gig. Defensively, the GGs return 8 starters. However, the good news is all Canadian and reigning CIS sack leader Ettore Latanzio is back to anchor the unit. Returning to the playoffs and winning the new resurrected Panda game for a second straight year should be Ottawa's main goals for 2014. The Lancers round out the third tier of the OUA pyramid, but like Mac, could very well find themselves in the top 3 come season's end. The offense returns 10 starters, with the most important of them all being quarterback Austin Kennedy, who's back for his 5th and final year. The D sees 11 returnees, which should bode well for the Lancers, while facing inexperience in the likes of Ottawa and Queens. The bottom 5 of the conference looks to remain the same in 2014. Toronto had its best year since 1993, barely missing out on the playoffs last season. However, key losses on offense will hurt the Varsity Blues. Finishing with a .500 record once again this year might be a stretch for Toronto. The Lions will be hard-pressed to improve on a disappointing 2013. Quarterback Miles Gibbon and running back Errol Brooks will both need to be replaced. Outside of Brooks, York didn't have a single other OUA All-Star in the year of 2013. Despite an abysmal 2013, surprisingly, the outlook for the Golden Hawks, not as bleak this time around. 11 starters return on both sides of the ball. Quarterback James Fracas is returning, as is OUA second-team All-Star running back Dylan Campbell and receiver Greg the Hoff Nyhoff. On D, they lose OUA second-team All-Star defensive back Felix Odom, but his partner in crime in the backfield and fellow OUA second-team All-Star Chris Aki is back to lead this experienced group. Improving on a 1-win season, it shouldn't be that hard for the Jayhawks. The Warriors were far from that in 2013. 2014, not going to be that much better. 7 starters return on the offense, an offense that was second worst in the OUA. The D will have to improve dramatically from last year. 9 starters are returning on a unit that allowed just over 50 points per game last year, which was second worst in the entire CIS. The Ravens are still the youngest team in the CIS and are hoping to put an 0-8 record behind them. It was another impressive year of recruiting by Coach Steve Samara and his staff that saw the Ravens bring 6 of Canada Football Chat's top 100 new recruits into the nest. Carleton travels to Waterloo to start the 2014 season, which very well could be the Ravens' first win since 1998.
Now, 2013 was the most competitive we've seen in years in the AUS Conference, with the final day of the season determining who made the postseason. It's been over a decade since an Atlantic team has gone and won the Vanier Cup. With the level of competition rising in the conference, could this be the year a team from the land of lobster and Alexander Keese makes its return to the Promised Land? Here's a glimpse now at the AUS Conference.
The littlest school in CIS football took the second half of the 2013 AUS season by storm, winning its first AUS championship since 1997 while hosting the UTEC Bowl in Sackville for the first time in school history. To say 2013 was a big year for the program would be an understatement. However, despite returning 10 starters on offense this fall, the Mounties lose its biggest weapon in AUS Outstanding Player of the Year, Jordan Botel, which will be a tremendous hole to fill in the backfield. QB Brandon Lay was an AUS All-Star in 2013, leading the conference with an average of 171 yards passed per game. The third-year pivot finished with a strong playoff run, tossing for close to 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, while completing 57% of his passes in those 3 games. On defense, the Mounties returned all 12 starters from 2013. Led by first-team All-Canadian defensive back Kwame Adjei, the Mounties D will need to improve dramatically in 2014. Mount A was the worst in the conference, allowing close to 27 points per game. It's not a lock that the Mounties will win another AUS title, especially with the loss of Botel, but do expect the reigning champs to be in the mix. SMU veterans will be looking for redemption after losing to Mount Allison in the final minutes in the Loney Bowl last year. However, not many of those vets are around anymore. The Huskies returned just 6 starters on offense, led by second-year quarterback Ben Rosen. who started 4 games under center last year. Melvin Abankwa will look to carry a huge load, not only at receiver but also in the backfield. Defensively, the look is quite the same. Just 6 starters returning from last year. Gone are AUS All-Stars Rob Jubenville and Eric Black, which leaves Jay Langa as the Huskies' only returning conference All-Star from 2013. With the amount of first years and sophomores having to fill into key positions on both sides of the ball, look for 2014 to be a year filled with growing pains for the Huskies. The Axemen snuck in the back door to the playoffs in 2013 after having a better head-to-head record against St. FX. The quarterback position will be an issue for the Axemen, as for the second year in a row, the team will look for a new starter. Furthermore, All-Canadian receiver Taylor Renault has graduated onto the CFL. But here's the good news. The Axemen will be strong in the backfield with AUS All-Star Thomas Troop and fifth-year senior Zach Clark leading the charge. On defense, Acadia is strong, led on the D-line by All-Canadian Jesse St. James and Hamilton Tiger Cats draftee Martin Pesic holding things down. All-Canadian defensive back Brett Backman is also returning for a 5th and final year. Consistency was the Axemen's Achilles heel in 2013. Another year of experience should bode well for this maturing team. Look for Acadia to be a dark horse to take the conference this year. Despite not making the playoffs last year, the X-Men came 1 win away from winning the conference in 2013. X's offense is led by running back Ashton Dixon and receiver Jordan Catterall, but just 2 will be calling the plays under center. The QB position is still up for grabs. New offensive coordinator Steve Schneider will have his hands full getting his offense together. Defensively, X features 9 returning starters from last year, with AUS Defensive Player of the Year Ron O'Mara leading the charge. September will be a true measure for the X-Men as they kick off the season with a tough road game at St. Mary's, a place they haven't won since 1998. They then end the month with a huge challenge when they play host to Montreal in Antigonish.
Will the top dog, or Chiens in French, that's right, restate their claim atop the conference? Well, all signs point to pretty much yes. Despite Laval's constant reign of terror, though, there are a few squads that could give them a pretty good run for their money. Here is a look at the 2014 RSEQ.
The reigning back-to-back Vanier Cup champs will be hard-pressed to knock off the throne in 2014. When you're consistently the best team in the nation, it's hard to not have depth. On offense, the Rouge et Or do lose a few key pieces, yet look to not miss a beat, starting at the QB position where Alex Skinner will have a battle on his hands in training camp as the red and gold landed who some say is the top quarterback recruit in the nation, Hugo Richard. Laval lost O-lineman Pierre Lavertu, who was the first pick in the CFL draft, yet was able to land 6'5", 300-pound top recruit Matthew Wafortin. On defense, they returned 9 starters, which is frightening for their opposition. The Red Machine was the top defense by a long shot in 2013, allowing just 11.5 points against per game. Come season's end, expect the Rouge et Or to be on top of the RSEQ board once again. The Carabas season fell just short of a Dunsmore title after losing to Laval by 3 in last year's final. The returning players, well, they're hoping to gain some experience from that loss and turn a negative into a positive this time around. On offense, the loss of one of Montreal's greatest players ever, Rotran Sene, will be a tough hole to fill. However, Manuel Crissy-Lazon will look to step into the big shoes that Sene left behind. At pivot, Gabriel Cousineau will get the starting job, but don't be surprised if top recruit Hugo Henderson, who Canada Football Chat had ranked as the best QB recruit to stay in the country, to find himself under center plenty of times this season. On D, the Carabin was ranked 2nd in the CIS last year, allowing just 15 points against per game. Montreal had 7 RSEQ All-Stars last year on D, returning 6 of them this time around. To be blunt, pencil the Carabin into the Dunsmore once again this season. 2013 was just short of a dream year for the Gators. Their 6 wins were the most the team has had since 1993, plus they hosted a playoff game in Lennoxville for the first time since 1994. Then to top all of that off, quarterback Jordan Heather won the Heck Creighton Award, making him the first Gator to win that exclusive prize. Bishops will be lucky to be a 500 team this time around, but just who will replace the Gators in the Q's top 3? The Ver Aor will look to return to the top 3 in the conference in 2014. Leading that charge will be quarterback Jeremy Rock, who many believe to be the best pivot in the conference now that Jordan Heather's collegiate career is over. The offense will need Rock's leadership, as it was ranked last in the conference last year, averaging just over 20 points per game. On defense, Sherbrooke should be better, with most of its starters returning. Look for the green and gold to make the playoffs once again in 2014. The bottom tier of the queue doesn't look that much different. McGill just missed out on the playoffs last year after losing the tiebreaker to Sherbrooke. 9 starters are coming back on offense, with RSEQ All-Star Louis Mota returning. Defensively, the Redmen will be thin, with just 6 starters coming back. Fighting for that final spot in the conference is where the Redmen should find themselves come season's end. Last but not least, we have the Concordia Stingers, who had very little to sting about in 2013, finishing the season 0-8 with very little on the horizon in 2014. Expect Concordia to remain in the basement for yet another season.
Preseason action, Montreal playing host to Guelph. Despite moving the ball well, the Griffins couldn't capitalize on their chances. And even though Montreal is without some key pieces on D from last year's squad, the Gariband's defense was just too much on the day. Montreal wins with ease, beating Guelph by 28. Here's a look now at the rest of the scores from preseason football around the CIS.
Well, a sad note to pass on to the viewing public here. Fellow analyst and former UBC quarterback Billy Green no longer with us here on the show. He's now working with IKEA Krown in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah, I like that. It's pretty good.
It's not bad. Proper pronunciation.
We do also have another former UBC Thunderbird and a former Queen's Gale alumni that's going to join us here on the set. That's coming up next. We also have somebody from Ontario, and here's a hint for you. He likes to dunk.
That's an awful hint and an awful segue, but we're coming back with a great show. You're watching Krown Countdown U.
Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of University football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football.
Hey, welcome back to Krown Countdown U. It's time for the first round table panel of the season. And what a dais we have. We'll start with, you've known him for many years, Mr. Jim Mullen, the man in black. Welcome back, sir. To your left, we have the newest member of our panel. His name is Gord Randall, former Queen's Gale and UBC Thunderbird. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Billy Green's never looked so good.
He's lost some weight.
Yes, joining us live from Toronto, the big smoke, if you will, Justin Dunk from Sportsnet and former member of the Guelph Griffins. How you doing, Justin?
Pretty good, guys. Good to be on.
Good to have you. Welcome back. We're going to start things out with you, actually. Don't get too comfortable. We're going to start with one of the biggest notes of the offseason. The OUA and the deal with Rogers has somewhat broken down. Can you kind of elaborate on this and kind of give us your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were just talking about this off camera, that the deal with the OUA, they've had TV for going back to the 1950s, Jim mentioned, but the fact is that during the regular season, it just wasn't drawing viewers for various reasons. And in the first year of the deal, I think Sportsnet did a very good job of trying to promote it and get it out there to the masses, but the numbers didn't come in the regular season. They came in the playoffs. So that's what Sportsnet has decided to keep, as the 2 bowl games and the Vanier Cup, because when you start looking at some of those numbers, Vanier Cup last year drew 200,000 viewers. So that's the type of viewership you need in the regular season. It has to come for the TV networks to want to have this product.
Well, even on a cable network like Shaw, when we have Friday night games and they're positioned properly, like a Regina versus a Saskatchewan, we can get into the 130s. It's just that when we get games that aren't positioned well on a Saturday afternoon, when people are gearing up for hockey on a Saturday night, and say it's Alberta and a Manitoba, that's when the numbers drop down into the 30 and 20,000. So, you know, I think it really comes down to the case of rethinking how you position this product. And there's a interlock right now between the Atlantic teams and the Quebec teams. What I'd like to see is an interlock on the line between the OUA teams, who at least want to participate in it, and the Canada West teams. Make it an England-Canada thing. Make it the destination Friday night. Put it even as not counter-programming to what TSN does with Friday Night Football, but something that kind of overlaps with it, that gives you that extra bit of football on the other side. I think something like that could be a winner, but people have to make up their minds within the CIS, or at least the OUA, and the Canada West schools, that they want to do something like this.
Frank McChrystal, this is big news out of Regina. He's not coming back for another season after this year. Long time standing coach there. I just kind of get your thoughts on this one. You played a long time in the Canada West. And by a long time, I mean a lot longer than me. What are your thoughts on this one and the Regina Rams?
Well, I think it signals kind of the dawn of a new era in the Canada West. Aside from Alberta and UBC, the other three programs in that Canada West have been marked by unprecedented stability at the coaching position. Brian Dobie's been there for years, McChrystal's been there for years, and Torres at Saskatchewan has been there for years as well. And this is one of the first of those kind of old guard coaches' dominoes to fall. And we'll see. I wouldn't be too surprised if the other two names I mentioned follow him in short order here.
Well, you know, Brian Dobie's still got a whole lot of energy. I see him out there in terms of recruiting, and I think he's got a number of years to offer. 31 years for Frank McChrystal. Really, his best days, I think, were coaching CJFL and winning a number of Canadian Bowls. But, you know, they got to the Vanier Cup in 2000. But his character, a lot of people across Canada West don't necessarily like Frank McChrystal, because he's hyper competitive. He's always in there for the fight. But you know what? From a media perspective, from my perspective, I love the guy. He's always open when it comes to stories. You can always show up at a practice. He'll always break things down for you. He'll tell you stories. This is a guy that it's one of the reasons why I really like covering this level of football and this level of sport, is because of guys like that and guys like Frank McChrystal. And I'm glad he's got a retirement tour.
All right, rather than guys going out the door, let's talk about guys coming in the door. Out at McMaster, the money must be good out east, Justin. Glenn Grunwald, former GM of the Toronto Raptors, the New York Knicks, he's the new athletic director for the Marauders. Your thoughts on this?
You're right. The money must be good to land a big name like Glenn Grunwald. I think it's a huge get for McMaster just because of the value of his name. He's obviously been a GM in the NBA earlier in his working career. Now he comes to McMaster, a massive name, and can help take that program to the next level there just with his name value alone. I think it's a big get for McMaster. The first episode of the season is in the bag. We'll catch you again next week. For Ryan Sullivan, Andrew Wadden, Jim Mullen, Justin Dunk, and Gord Randall, see you later.